The chains of the Overlords. The mines of Khelaris burned red beneath a dying sun. The air was thick with iron dust, choking the lungs of those who labored in the tunnels. Shackled humans swung pickaxes at the stone, each strike echoing through the caverns like the heartbeat of the enslaved. Overseer drones hovered above, their eyes glowing with cold blue light, scanning for the slightest hint of rebellion. Captain Elias Ward's hands were raw, his body bent from years of forced labor. Once, he had worn the uniform of Earth's defense fleet. Once, he had commanded ships among the stars. Now, he was just another number in the Overlord's ledger, another human reduced to muscle and silence. Yet even as his pickaxe cracked rock, his mind sharpened on memory, the day Earth fell. The Overlords had descended without warning, their fleets blotting out the skies. Cities crumbled under orbital fire. Ward remembered the screams, the firestorms, the surrender broadcasts that turned soldiers into prisoners. Humanity had not merely been defeated. It had been humiliated, its spirit chained as tightly as its people. A drone drifted closer, scanning the sweat on his back. Ward slowed his breathing, his face empty, practiced in showing nothing. Defiance, even a flicker, meant death, or worse, the agony of the control collars that could fry a brain in seconds. "Work faster," the drone's metallic voice hissed. It buzzed away, leaving the miners to their endless toil. Ward straightened only when the drone vanished. He glanced around at the others. Old men with hollow eyes. Children barely strong enough to lift the picks. Women with hands bloodied from jagged stone. Humanity's future broken into fragments. Rage simmered beneath his calm expression. He forced it down as he had for years. That night, when the overseers locked the miners in their barracks, Ward sat against the wall and listened. The barracks were always alive with whispers, scraps of hope traded like forbidden currency. Tonight, the whispers were different. "They say a broadcast slipped through," one man murmured. A voice from Earth. A voice that said, "We're not finished." "Impossible," another spat bitterly. Earth was glassed. No one survived. "But I heard it. We are not dead. We will rise." That's what it said. Ward's eyes narrowed. A broadcast? The Overlords jammed all frequencies. No signal should have escaped, unless someone had found a way. Unless the embers of humanity's fleet had not been fully extinguished. As the barracks settled into uneasy silence, a shadow moved beside him. A young woman, dirt streaked across her cheek, crouched close. Her name was Kara Dern, a smuggler before the conquest, now a miner like the rest. "You heard them," she whispered. "The voice is real, and we've made contact." Ward turned to her slowly. "Contact?" Kara's eyes gleamed with dangerous resolve. "There's a network, hidden across the colonies. We've been waiting for someone with the skill to lead. Someone who knows the fleet." Ward said nothing. His silence stretched, heavy with ghosts. Kara pressed on. "We're planning a breakout. A supply ship arrives in 3 days. If we take it, we can escape the mines. We can join the others." Ward let out a breath, low and steady. "Do you know what you're asking? I've seen rebellion. I've seen it crushed. You don't fight the Overlords with courage. You don't even fight them with weapons. You fight, and they erase you. Entire bloodlines wiped away as warning." Kara's jaw tightened. "And if we do nothing, we'll die here anyway. I won't let the children grow up in chains." Her words struck him deeper than she knew. The image of a boy, his son, lost in the fires of Earth, flashed in Ward's mind. He closed his eyes. For years, he had told himself survival was enough. But survival in chains was not living. When he opened his eyes again, there was steel in them. "Tell me the plan." The following days were filled with secret preparation. Tools smuggled from the mines became makeshift weapons. Collars were tampered with, power cells stolen, explosives fashioned from fuel rods. Every move risked discovery, yet the whispers of freedom carried the miners forward. On the third day, the sky above Khelaris filled with the shadow of an Overlord supply ship. Its descent shook the ground, its engines screaming like the voice of tyranny itself. Drones swarmed to unload cargo, confident in their dominance. Ward stood among the workers, head bowed, hands steady. His heart thundered, But his voice was calm as he muttered the signal. Now. Explosions ripped through the docking yard. Drones spiraled out of the air, their frames burning. Humans surged forward with stolen blades and makeshift blasters. The barracks erupted into chaos, but this chaos carried purpose. Ward led the charge, his pickaxe buried into the chest of an overseer guard. Kara shot another, the recoil jarring her arms but her eyes unflinching. Miners fell, but more pressed on, driven by the first taste of defiance in years. Through fire and smoke, they reached the supply ship's bay. Ward climbed the ramp, bloodied but unbroken, and slammed his hand on the control panel. The ship's systems flickered to life under stolen codes. The engines roared. As the ship lifted from the ground, the surviving rebels let out a sound the galaxy had not heard in decades. A cheer. A cry of freedom. "For Earth!" someone shouted. Ward gripped the controls, eyes burning with resolve. For Earth. For humanity. For the galaxy itself. The chains had been broken, and the war was about to begin. The first spark of fire. The stolen supply ship shuddered as it tore through the black. Systems flickered, warning lights painted the cabin red, and sparks hissed from overloaded conduits. It was a miracle the ship had even left the surface. Captain Elias Ward stood at the controls, hands steady despite the chaos. Behind him, the survivors, miners, children, elders, and a handful of fighters, strapped themselves into whatever seats they could find. Fear and exhilaration blended in their eyes. For the first time in years, the sky above them was not barred by chains. Ward's voice cut through the clamor. "Everyone hold. The ship's old, but she'll carry us. She has to." Cara Dern crouched at the engineering console, her fingers flying over alien symbols. Overlords didn't build this for comfort. They built it to last. "I can reroute power to shields, but if they catch us before we jump..." "They won't," Ward said, though he wasn't certain. His gaze fixed on the stars stretching endlessly before them. He had seen too many pursuits end in fire. Yet this time was different. This time, they carried hope. An alarm wailed. "Incoming signatures," Kara warned. 2 Overlord interceptors, vectoring fast. The cabin froze. Humanity had stolen its first breath of freedom, and already the noose tightened. Ward snapped orders. "Strap in. Kara, find us cover." He slammed the throttle forward, the ship groaning as it lurched toward a nearby asteroid belt. Jagged shadows loomed ahead, a maze of rock and ice where larger ships would struggle to follow. The interceptors fired, beams of searing plasma streaking past the hull. Metal screamed as the stolen ship's shields barely held. Sparks cascaded across the cabin. Children cried out. Miners clutched each other, terror etched deep. Ward's jaw tightened. He would not let them die here, not after tasting freedom. "Kara, weapons online?" "Barely. One turret, half power." "Good enough." Ward yanked the ship into the asteroid field, weaving between tumbling boulders. The interceptors pursued, confident in their superiority. But humans had always thrived in chaos. Ward guided the vessel into the tightest spaces, scraping hull against stone, trusting instinct where the Overlords trusted machines. "Target lock," Kara shouted. She swung the turret and fired. The beam cut across an interceptor's wing. The alien craft spun wildly, colliding with an asteroid in a burst of fire. A cheer erupted among the passengers. For the first time, they had struck back, but the second interceptor closed in, relentless. Its weapons charged, ready to end them. Ward narrowed his eyes. "We don't run. Not now." He steered straight toward a massive asteroid. Then, at the last second, rolled the ship hard. The Overlord pilot, overconfident, didn't react in time. The interceptor smashed into the rock, shattering in a brilliant explosion. The cabin filled with stunned silence. Then, slowly, the silence broke into shouts, laughter, and tears. Against all odds, humanity had survived its first battle. Ward exhaled, his hands finally loosening from the controls. Kara leaned back, sweat on her brow, her grin fierce. "We just killed 2 of their ships. With this wreck." Ward's eyes were distant, but a spark of pride burned there. Not just a wreck, a weapon. And now we fight with it. News of the breakout spread faster than the overlords could suppress it. Across the colonies, enslaved humans whispered of the victory in the asteroid belt. For decades, they had believed resistance meant only death. Now, the story was different. Humanity had risen, and others were listening. On distant worlds, alien slaves, once too broken to dream, raised their heads. Could it be true? Could humans, the fragile, short-lived species dismissed by their masters, truly defy the overlords? The overlords, enraged, dismissed it as a minor disturbance, a nuisance to be crushed. Supreme Commander Kareth Voss was assigned the task. His reputation was carved from cruelty. Entire planets burned at his order. To him, humanity was beneath notice. Send a message. Voss growled to his subordinates, his scaled hand curling into a fist. For every ship they steal, 1,000 humans will die. Let them choke on their defiance. And so the purges began. Slave camps across the galaxy erupted in screams as humans were executed in droves. To the overlords, it was strategy. To the humans, it was fuel. Each atrocity carried the same message. Resistance is alive. Resistance is dangerous. Ward gathered the survivors in the ship's central hold. His voice carried through the chamber, steady as stone. We're not just survivors. We're soldiers again. What we did in those mines, what we did against their interceptors, that's proof. Humanity is not finished. If we die fighting. If we live, we'll spread the fire. Faces turned toward him, scarred, weary, but alight with something new. Not fear, not despair. Hope. Kara raised her fist. Then we are the Terran Resistance. The name echoed through the hold, a vow spoken in unison. The Terran Resistance. Ward allowed himself a rare smile. The galaxy might not believe in them yet, but they believed in themselves. And that was enough to start a war. The shattered alliance. The Terran Resistance did not remain a whisper for long. Word of humanity's defiance spread across slave camps and shattered colonies like fire leaping from dry grass. For the first time in living memory, a species had bloodied the overlords and lived to tell the tale. But the fire was dangerous. It drew attention, it drew hope, and it drew suspicion. The stolen supply ship, now christened the Defiance, drifted into a secret rendezvous point hidden within the magnetic storms of a dying gas giant. Elias Ward stood at the viewing port, watching lightning dance across the clouds, his reflection lined with exhaustion. "They're coming," Kara Dern said beside him, her hand hovering over her blaster. "But don't expect them to trust us." Ward gave a dry chuckle. Trust is a luxury in this galaxy. The first ship arrived cloaked in shimmering distortion. A Volari cruiser, sleek and organic, as though grown from living crystal. The Volari were legends, once proud warriors who had nearly broken the Overlord's grip centuries ago, before betrayal fractured their uprising. They had survived in exile, nursing their wounds in silence. Volari envoys boarded the Defiance. Tall, slender, their silver eyes glowed with ancient memory. The leader, Elder Sarian, regarded Ward with measured calm. "Humanity," Sarian said, voice like wind through glass. "We thought your kind extinguished. Yet here you stand, waving fire in the dark." Ward inclined his head. "We're not waving fire. We're building it. Alone, we'll burn out. But together, we can end them." The Volari murmured among themselves. They admired humanity's courage, yet they remembered their own failure too well. "You are reckless," Sarian warned. "The Overlords cannot be beaten. They are a tide. You are a spark." "Then let's see if a spark can set the tide ablaze," Ward answered. More ships arrived in the following days, small bands from enslaved or broken species. Amphibian scholars who had seen their libraries burned. Insectoid, hive-strains scattered into wandering exiles. Feline warriors who still wore the scars of Overlord whips. Each delegation came with hesitation. Could humanity truly lead? Were they strong enough or desperate enough to finish what others had failed to do? Ward argued not with promises of glory, but with truth. "We don't fight because we think we can win. We fight because the alternative is chains. You want a leader who guarantees victory? That's not me. You want someone who won't stop fighting? That's humanity. Some nodded. Others shook their heads. The alliance was fragile before it had even begun. While debates consumed the gathering, Kareth Voss tightened his grip on the galaxy. He unleashed purges with methodical cruelty. Entire camps of humans were executed on live broadcast, their screams transmitted as warnings. The Overlords believed fear would smother resistance. Instead, the atrocities fanned the fire. Even among non-humans, whispers grew. If the Overlords fear humanity so much they slaughter them, perhaps humans are more dangerous than they appear. The first joint operation tested the alliance. Intelligence revealed an Overlord fortress world in the Vedra system, heavily defended but rich with supplies. The Resistance needed it. Ward studied the holomap, his face lit by shifting blue light. They expect a siege. We don't give them one. We strike where they think we won't. Inside, Kara frowned. Inside, that fortress is a death trap, which is why they won't guard against us crawling through its guts. Ward outlined the plan. Infiltration through maintenance shafts, hacking their power grid, turning their automated defenses against them. It was audacious, suicidal, human. The Khelaris scoffed, calling it madness. The insectoids clicked in disapproval. Yet when the operation began, Ward's strategy unfolded like clockwork. Resistance fighters slipped into the fortress aboard captured drone ships. Kara hacked control nodes, flooding Overlord comms with false orders. Automated cannons turned on their own masters. Explosions rippled through armored walls as prisoners rioted from within. Ward led the strike team, carving through corridors in brutal close combat. The Overlords were stronger, their armor thicker, but humans fought dirty. Pickaxes turned to weapons, stolen blades thrust between armor seams, grenades hurled in desperate arcs. By the time the fortress burned, the Overlords had lost more than a stronghold. They had lost the illusion of invulnerability. But victory came with scars. Hundreds of humans lay dead, their blood staining the alien stone. Khelaris cruisers limped away crippled. And as the fires cooled, arguments erupted among the alliance. We cannot fight endless battles like this, one amphibian scholar croaked. Our people are not ready for total war. The humans drag us into madness, an insectoid envoy snapped, mandibles clacking. Their recklessness will doom us all. Kara shouted back. Without us, you'd still be bowing in chains. Ward said nothing at first. He stared at the bodies lined for burial, his expression carved from stone. At last, he spoke. They call us reckless because we fight with nothing left to lose. But the truth is, every world in this galaxy has nothing left to lose. If you can't see that, then you're already dead. His words silenced the chamber, but silence was not unity. The fractures widened. Some allies pledged loyalty. Others plotted withdrawal. That night, alone on the observation deck, Ward stared at the stars. Each one seemed distant, fractured, as though reflecting the alliance itself. Kara joined him, quiet for a long time before speaking. You think they'll hold? Ward's voice was low, grim. No, but they don't have to. They just have to fight long enough. Long enough for us to break the Overlord's spine. And in the darkness, as lightning from the gas giant lit his face, Ward swore silently to himself. Humanity would be that fracture, even if it shattered the galaxy. The war that fractured the galaxy. The galaxy burned. Overlord fleets swept across the stars in endless waves, their war machines crushing uprisings, their wrath scorching entire worlds. Yet the tide was no longer one-sided. For every planet silenced, 2 more rebelled. For every human executed, 100 rose with fire in their eyes. The Terran Resistance had become more than a rebellion. It was a symbol. But symbols did not win wars. Fleets did. And so, Elias Ward stood at the heart of the Terran flagship Defiance, staring at the tactical map glowing before him. Hundreds of ships flickered on the display. Patched-together freighters turned into gunboats, Valari cruisers limping but proud, swarms of insectoid fighters buzzing around amphibian carriers. A coalition of the desperate. A fleet born not of strength, but of refusal to kneel. Cara Dern's voice broke his concentration. They're gathering, Elias. Every scanner shows the same thing. The Overlords are coming here. All of them. Ward's jaw clenched. The Vaderus system, where the fractured alliance had made its stand, had become a beacon. The Overlords meant to crush it in one decisive blow. The outcome would not just decide the Resistance. It would decide the galaxy. Then we meet them here, Ward said, his voice steady. If we fall, let it be where the galaxy can see us burn. If we win, he let the thought hang unfinished. The battlefield was chosen. A dying star, unstable and snarling with gravitational storms. To the Overlords, it was a trap, an environment where their superior numbers could still overwhelm. To Ward, it was a weapon. As the first Overlord warships warped in, their hulls glistening like obsidian blades, the Resistance fleet braced. The size of the enemy was staggering. Hundreds of capital ships, thousands of fighters, each one larger and more advanced than anything the humans could field. Ward opened the comms. His voice carried not just to his fleet, but across the Alliance. They call us weak. They call us broken. But today, we are the fracture in their empire. Today, we are the spark they cannot control. We fight not for survival alone. We fight so no child is ever born in chains again. Terran Resistance, allies of every world, fire. The void erupted. The Overlords advanced in disciplined waves, their plasma barges tearing through the Resistance line. Ships exploded in blossoms of fire, their fragments scattering like dying stars. But the Resistance did not fight as the Overlords expected. They fought with chaos. Cara led squadrons of jury-rigged drones into suicidal dives, detonating inside enemy hulls. Valari cruisers wove through plasma storms, their crystalline armor refracting deadly beams into enemy formations. Insectoid swarms tore into Overlord carriers, shredding them from within. And the humans fought with everything. Freighters rammed dreadnoughts. Miners' drills were used as boarding weapons. Soldiers with nothing but blades stormed corridors where even powered armor faltered. Humanity fought dirty, and the galaxy followed their lead. The battle raged for hours. The dying star writhed, its gravity distorting space, tearing ships apart. Yet still neither side broke. Then the Overlord flagship appeared, the Khelaris, a monstrous vessel dwarfing anything in the Resistance fleet. At its helm stood Kareth Voss, his scaled form glistening with hatred. He had sworn to personally extinguish humanity, and now the moment had come. The Khelaris carved through the battlefield, its weapons annihilating entire squadrons in a single volley. The Resistance wavered. Ward knew the battle would collapse unless he ended it here. "Bring us in," he ordered. The Defiance plunged toward the Overlord flagship, dodging fire that should have torn it apart. Boarding pods slammed against the Khelaris' hull, and Ward led the charge inside. The corridors were a furnace of fire and blood. Humans clashed with Overlord soldiers in brutal hand-to-hand combat. Ward cut a path with stolen plasma blades, his mind fixed on one goal, Kareth Voss. At last, they met in the command chamber. Voss towered over him, armored and seething. "You are an insect that forgot its place," the Overlord snarled. "I will make your death an example." Ward's reply was steel and fury. They fought blade against blade, strength against resilience. Voss was stronger, faster, but Ward was human. He fought with rage, with memory, with the weight of every chain his people had worn. In a final desperate strike, Ward drove the blade through Voss's chest. The Overlord's roar shook the chamber before silence claimed him. Ward spat the words through clenched teeth. "Remember this strength." When the Khelaris fell, the Overlord fleet faltered. Confusion spread through their ranks. The Resistance pressed the advantage, hurling everything into a final assault. And in the chaos, the dying star gave its last breath. A supernova erupted. Light consumed the system, tearing friend and foe alike. Only those ships farthest from the blast limped away. The Overlords have been broken, their command shattered, their aura of invincibility gone. But the cost was staggering. Entire fleets lost, allies scattered, the galaxy left bleeding. In the aftermath, Ward stood aboard the battered Defiance, gazing out at fractured starlight. Kara joined him, her face streaked with smoke and grief. "We won," she whispered. Ward shook his head. "We survived. That's not the same." His eyes lingered on the stars, each one a reminder of sacrifice. The Overlords are broken, but the galaxy is fractured. We've lit the fire, but what comes after is something else entirely. He let the silence linger before speaking again, softer. "We are only human, but sometimes that's enough to change the galaxy." And with that, humanity's war was not ended, only begun.